Here to tell us about the Nihang Sikhs and Gatka is Jaswinder Singh, a Nihang Sikh and Gatka instructor at Spahid Baba Deep Singh Akhara. Thanks for coming in today.
You're welcome.
Now, why don't we start a bit in terms of the origins of where the Nihang Sikhs come from and sort of why they have maintained the tradition up to this day?
Well, the cause of their, I guess, upbringing was because of the non-violent movement that went through, or movements that went through India at that time. Basically forced people to let go of their martial heritage and arms because of they were into the ahimsa notion of peace and so on. And therefore, you had a lot of persecutors, tyrants, you had...
sort of created opportunities for tyrants to rise because there is no means to stand up to them.
Right, because as you know, India was a very rich culture, or a rich nation in its natural resources. A lot of gold, a lot of oil, a lot of other precious metals and so on. So you had people coming from the Middle East, and you had people coming from up north to grab all these precious metals and natural resources. And therefore, basically, the average layman of the country had forgotten to defend its honor. Therefore, it was up to the 10th Guru to basically revive this martial notion that had forgotten in India. So therefore, the Nihangs came into existence.
And when you say martial, I mean, I also assume that generally it's the notion of self-defense rather than an offense. It's more defending one's rights rather than trying to impose them upon others. Is that correct?
Right. A Nihang Sikh, a Sikh in general, is not supposed to, or is not to attack for its personal gains and personal needs. It is only for the form of self-defense.
And as certainly I've learned about the Sikh tradition, it's not only the self-defense of Sikhs, but the self-defense of others. Is that correct?
That's very correct. The number one duty of a Nihang Sikh or a Sikh is to protect and serve humanity. I mean, just generally speaking, if there's somebody on the street who's being robbed, or a lady who is being, I guess, threatened by other people, it is your duty to go and help her or him, regardless of what caste, creed, religion you are. It is your duty to serve humanity, and it is said that in serving your humanity, if you were to die and your life would be gone, you are to be saved in salvation.
Now, obviously, we're talking about, in terms of the founding of the Nihang Sikhs, something that happened several hundred years ago, and yet today there are still many, such as yourself, who practice. Can you tell me a bit more about how it survived over all this time and how it's become really an active part of the Sikh community?
To say in modern society, you wouldn't find people wearing what I'm wearing right now. In fact, you wouldn't find me wearing this every day of my life either. It's basically, I wear this when we're either performing or when we're giving a demonstration or talking about Nihang Sikhs. The Nihang Sikhs in India they live a nomadic lifestyle. They move from city to city, from place to place, to village, preaching the word of Guru Nanak. They don't carry any I guess vital possessions because they have no liking to capital, money. They don't
no material trappings.
That's correct. There's no materialism in their ideology. So. They are not considered in mainstream because of that particular reason. And you have political people coming in. The dress has changed to become more modern, the layman person. But they live basically a nomadic lifestyle in India.
And yet it's interesting, yourself here in the West, you mentioned that not every day you'd wear this particular outfit, yet it's still important in terms of, I guess, remembering or reaffirming the tradition within the community?
Yes, there are some people in my generation who have adapted this type of dress every day. Those people go to school, work in this type of lifestyle. I don't, because I'm a student. I go in and out. I was just basically born and raised here, so I have a different dress code. So I only wear this basically for ceremonial reasons.
But is it certainly safe to assume that the message or the ethic of the Nihang Sikh is something that you carry with you every day and at all
Definitely.
moments?
My 5 Ks are always with me. I have a turban on all the time. The necessities of our, I guess, ideology is always with me. I have the ideology of protecting and serving humanity. It could be something simple like holding a door for somebody or picking up their pen with you. Just going out of your way and doing it. On a macro level, it will be, I guess, serving or participating in movements that need social or human rights. We would fight for gender rights. We would fight for, or we would participate in their movement of any ethnic community or any caste community that needs their human rights.
Certainly aligning yourself with the struggle for human rights, regardless of who might be actually struggling for it.
That's correct.
Perhaps you could elaborate not just on its origins, but its relevance today, and how as a teacher, and I assume also a student, how you were able to practice here in Canada.
Well, number one, when we teach the kids, it's what we teach is self-discipline. We teach them focus, right? So it helps them become more confident in their daily life and their schoolwork and whatnot. The origin of Gatka, the formal name for Gatka is the stick, the practicing stick that we use to teach the kids.
Like a staff or shorter than a staff?
Yeah, it's about, I'd say it's about 2.5 feet long, and it has a handle, right? That's called the Gatka. Right, so the martial arts is known because it's the wielder of the swords. The formal name for Gatka is Shastra Vidya. Right? It's an ancient martial art, right, that was revived by the sixth Guru, Guru Har Gobind Sahib, and then the 10th Guru basically brought it into full stream and then
formally organized the Nihang Sikhs
right,
around
the order
the
of the
martial art.
Khalsa. Yeah, that's correct. And the training began because obviously the fifth Guru, who was the father of the sixth Guru, was arrested and he was martyred. He was killed because he was to implement the name of the Islamic prophet into the holy book. And upon refusal, he was arrested and tortured and persecuted, and then eventually he had to give up his life. He was martyred. So the sixth
Which certainly illustrated the need for a self-defense.
Right. So the sixth Guru basically, he started training the Sikhs in the martial art. He himself had learned from Baba Buddhaji, who was very well trained in the martial arts. He has the origins of his training go back to Guru Nanak and some other very profound martial artists. And the sixth Guru implemented the martial training, and he taught the Sikhs how to ride a horse. And then his saying was that anybody coming from far, or any gifts that were to be given to me, should be of weaponry and horses. And he basically he established the Akal Takht, the supreme seat, or the seat of the Almighty in Amritsar right now.
Now, tell me a bit more. Obviously, the history you've described is very rich and very much situated within the culture of the time. How would you, as someone who's, as you say, born and raised in Canada, be linked up into this tradition and learn this practice, this martial art?
Like I said, it brings confidence, right? So there's advantages to learning it. It's our cultural, I guess, way. We should learn it. It's one of those things.
Sort of encapsulates and preserves the culture of the Sikhs and the Nihang Sikhs in particular.
That's correct. It also gives you a sense of confidence, just because you know you can defend yourself in self-defensive forms. Like, I don't think twice of going out to the dark or a dark alley or things like that, small things like that.
And I mean, is this something that you chose to learn in terms of an interest, or is it very common for young Sikhs to learn Gatka as part of a natural process?
It's not common, actually. When I started learning, since I was a young child, I saw the videos of the Nihangs in India performing demonstrations and so on. I always wanted to learn. And then I just never had the proper teacher to until I met teachers in around year 2000, 2001, and I started vigorously.
Was it difficult finding a teacher? Is that something that poses an obstacle?
It was a big obstacle. There's not very many people who know the true art, like the purest form. There's a lot of variations of Gatka, but in the true sense, the true form. And then, well, there's a group of us had started training together, and then...
Well, and I was going to ask, was it natural that you went from being a student to a teacher, or was it something that you were just so inspired in learning yourself that you really wanted to share that with others?
Yes, exactly. I was really inspired because it kind of changed my life in the sense where I became more self-disciplined and I became more physically fit, felt healthier because I was all the vigorous exercises that it demands. And
well, and that's an interesting point. I mean, we're talking about it in very ethereal terms, but physically, is it demanding? How difficult was it for you to go from knowing nothing to becoming a teacher?
It was very demanding, actually, because teaching is a whole different realm, as you may know. You have to get the people. Learning discipline is a whole different thing. Teaching discipline is quite different. You have to be very focused. You have to know what you're doing, know what to say, how to convey the message, or how to teach them. Like, if I were to give them a diagram of how to do something, and then actually getting the result from is quite difficult to do it yourself.
Now, you mentioned earlier that the meaning of gatka sort of implies swordplay. And that sort of begs the question, are there different types of weapons that are taught in terms of the mastery of the martial art, other than swords?
In Shastra, yes, you have bow and arrow, you have spears, there's a bunch of other throwing weapons. There's a command krora, there's the straight-edged sword. It's a straight sword and has double edges, sharp on both ends. The way to wield that, the way to fight with that is different than the curvaceous sword.
I'm also curious, you mentioned the role of horses or equestrian arts. I assume it's perhaps not easy to find a horse, but do you also learn that aspect of the martial art?
We are told to learn the horse riding, but obviously in Canada here it's kind of hard. I mean, you have to go onto a ranch, and you know,
it's not too accessible from a city center.
And the way that the Nihangs possess their horse riding skills is just phenomenal. I mean, they practice about 4 or 5 hours of riding a day, and you have one person riding 4 horses at one time.
Right,
it's
so it would be difficult for someone in your position to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to see the skills of the Nihangs, the Hola Mahalla festival in mid-March in India at the city of Anandpur, you can see tent pegging. The horses come in at very fast speeds. We only have, what, half an hour, 1 hour sessions with horses, so it's kind of difficult to take that skill.
Well, thank you very much for coming in today. Certainly we've learned a lot about the gatka martial tradition, but also about the Nihang Sikhs, and certainly thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
That was Jaswinder Singh, a gatka instructor at Shahid Baba Deep Singh Akhara.